considering how angry those in positions of power are with Luigi Mangione, I don't think that he should fear. I do not believe that he should fear any repercussions from prisoners, but rather, I don't know, someone who might have an interest in doing something. Someone who's high profile, who sees him as a dangerous threat.
From Ivy League rich kid to inmate number 5.
What could make you agree with me that the evidence is bunk and faked by the feds? Dude, no, I don't think so.
2503-511. That is Luigi Mangione's new identification inside the walls of Brooklyn's notorious Metropolitan Detention Center, commonly known as MDC. The 26-year-old is the latest high-profile inmate at the Federal Detention Center. Former inmates include sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, farmer bro Martin Shkreli, and R. Kelly. Currently, Sean Diddy Combs is also being held there on federal charges, including sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy. Mangione and Combs also sharing a lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, who is working on Mangione's case with his wife and lead counsel, Karen.
I'm going to try and minimize the amount of time he spends in very, very difficult and I believe inhumane housing conditions in the special housing unit of the Metropolitan Detention Facility.
Agnifilo recently argued to move the music mogul before trial because of the conditions at MDC. While the department wouldn't confirm details of any specific inmate, policy shows upon arrival they undergo a 21-day evaluation to determine in what unit they will be held. Because Mangione's case is high profile, it's likely he will be housed in what's called the SHU, a unit where inmates are separated from the general population, largely for safety reasons.
His interactions will be limited. I think the oversight will be far more significant. I think he'll be subject to a lot less dangers.
We are pushing for basic humanity.
In recent years, inmates, attorneys, and activists have sounded the alarm on issues like violence, overcrowding, staffing shortages, even power outages. In September, a federal judge condemned the facility's conditions, prompting the Bureau of Prisons to appoint an urgent action team to, quote, take a holistic look at the challenges at MDC Brooklyn.
So it was a big deal, and I think that tells you all you need to know with respect to what's happening. Yeah, there.
As for Mangione, a Bureau of Prisons handbook outlines daily life behind bars, including a 6 a.m. wake-up call for breakfast, sweeping and mopping his cell, a new change of clothes 3 days a week, and a chance to shop in the 2 weeks, where he can buy candy bars, crossword books, and deodorant. In Pennsylvania, more than 150 donations were made to Mangione's commissary account. The Bureau of Prisons won't comment on inmates' accounts. CNN has learned that commissary money that was in Mangione's account in Pennsylvania will be transferred to the Bureau of Prisons for Mangione. Also important to note, his attorneys in court said that they reserve their right to request bail in this case, possibly at a later date. Bryn Gingras, CNN, New York.
Joining us now is prison consultant Sam Mangel. Sam is in touch with members of Mangione's legal team and staff attorneys from that detention center, but has not been retained by the defense. Sam, we wanted to make sure everybody was all on the same page there. Nice to have you here with us. I just first want to know from your perspective what it's like in this facility and how Mangione might be treated.
So first, thank you for having me back. I've described this facility, and it's kind of caught on as a catchphrase, as the worst facility. I mean, it's worse than hell. Where he currently is in a protective custody unit. So it's similar to a SHU, and he's being held there for evaluation. Until they can clear him psychologically, physically, emotionally, they're not going to put him into a general population environment. Even though he won't be in theoretical general population, he'll most likely be on what's called Unit 4H, which is where your high-profile inmates are. It is not a pleasant place to be. However, it is much better than the alternative, which would be a state facility, where Rikers, for a number of reasons.
And why is that?
When you're in a federal facility, you tend to not only get a better, and I use this term very generously, accommodations, but the food, the ability to access counsel, and also the nature of the prisoners tend to be a little bit different. Certainly when he leaves protective custody and gets into the floor he's going to, which is where Sean Combs is, Sam Bankman-Fried. I think there's 2 former politicians from the Mexican government. Once he gets there, he will not only be in a safer environment, he'll be allowed out of his cell, probably from 6 in the morning to 9 at night, barring counts. He'll get 3 regular meals, which tend to be much better than state meals. And overall, he will be certainly much safer in an open environment than having to require or need the protective custody of what he might need at a Rikers.
I also want to ask you, this case in particular, and we've talked about this on this show as well, just about the public support that we have seen for this man who is accused of killing Brian Thompson. And
I don't know which is better, considering that incredibly high profile people have found an untimely demise at this specific facility. I'm, of course, talking about Jeffrey Epstein. Very high profile sexual trafficker of children for the elite. Died under very suspicious circumstances, and I still to this day think that he was killed. So, considering how angry those in positions of power are with Luigi Mangione, I don't think that he should fear. I do not believe that he should fear any repercussions from prisoners, but rather, I don't know, someone who might have an interest in doing something. Someone who's high profile, who sees him as a dangerous threat. Epstein was because of the secrets he was keeping, though. Luigi doesn't have any. I know, but I mean, people are very clearly not reacting normally to this. Like they're not seeing this as a one-off. You know what I mean?
What that looks like on the internet, and just how high profile, that not only high profile, but just how he has gotten so much public support from people. What does that mean, if anything, when you're inside this facility? Does he get letters or phone calls or anything like that, or it doesn't matter at all?
Well, certainly people could put money on his account for commissary and for emails. He'll get letters. He might get fan letters.
Mando Ewok.
Other than that,
thank you for the 10 gifted subs.
He's
Valorant, thank you for the 2 gifted subs.
It makes him, in my opinion, much more vulnerable, much more susceptible to extortion, especially once, not so much where he currently is. This might be the safest part.
Yeah, Valorant is apparently gifting a sub for every 5 gifted subs today or something. I don't really know.
Of his whole journey. If he is convicted of federal
thank you for the 5
charges,
gifted.
which would certainly be better than the state charges in terms of prisons, he's going to have to figure out with his team where to go. Where will be the safest facility? Is he going to need psychological services? Or is he going to, depending upon his sentence, have to remain somewhere for life? And he will face inmates that are not fans of his, do not care about United Healthcare, usually care about.
I don't think he's going to, a controversial opinion, but like, I don't think that there are a lot of inmates in there that are going to be frustrated with him. If anything, they will most likely treat him like a hero. Ito Arcana, Robin Banks, and Bungalow Bill, thank you for the 10. Joe Slade, thank you for the 5.
One thing, what can you give me? How much?
I think the reason why they say this kind of stuff, though, is because they literally assume, like, people operate on this basis, on this false notion that, like, prisoners are basically fucking, like, insane, rabid, violent animals. Like, there are certain rules in prison, right? For example, if you're a child molester, you get killed. Like, they kill child molesters. So child molesters usually go to protective custody pretty quickly. But Luigi Mangione, I don't think is going to be treated, or, cops also have issues in prison as well. But I don't think Luigi Mangione is going to get the cop or child molester approach. Jeffrey Epstein was in the Manhattan one, not the Brooklyn one. Rikers is worse when it comes to MCC, then Brooklyn, then MDC. Like, in the more likely scenario is that someone could, like, I guess, put a hit out on him, like a rich person could hire someone to kill him in prison or something. But yeah, if you recall, the prisoners in Altoona were all cheering for Luigi. We know how the prisoners broadly feel about him. I mean, the very fact that they're locked in prison implies that they're probably not coming from a wealthy background, a particularly wealthy background to begin with. And if there's one thing we know about poor people, they also have immediate family members that suffer from the treacherous nature of for-profit healthcare.
How much money can your family send me or else? And it's a very scary predicament that he and his family have to be concerned with going forward. This will be, in my opinion, the safest part of his whole experience, being in Brooklyn, MDC.
Yeah, and I know, again, as I said at the top of this interview, you are advising his legal team. You've not been retained by them. Is that something you all have talked through, just his particular situation in the fact that the public does know that he comes from a well-to-do family, things like that?
So I've spoken with his legal team. I've spoken with them on a number of occasions. I've also spoken with the legal staff at Brooklyn MDC as recently as yesterday to try to help arrange the legal visits for him, for his counsel. So I wanted to clarify that. I'm sure that they were blindsided the other day when they learned it was federal. So they're going to have to pivot and do whatever is necessary to deal with that charge. I'm sure that they were probably preparing for the state charges and a potential state incarceration. It was completely different, and it's something that I'm sure that they will be addressing as time goes forward.
All right, Sam Mangione, thank you so much for your insight on this. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jessica. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
The suspect in the execution-style killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, there he is, will be arraigned in New York City tomorrow. 26-year-old Luigi Mangione is facing first-degree murder and terrorism charges, state and federal charges, but the far left still supports him. Saturday Night Live made jokes about Mangione last night. Just listen to how the crowd reacted.
Luigi Mangione dropped. Yeah, definitely woo. You're wooing for justice, right? Luigi Mangione dropped his extradition fight and was flown from Pennsylvania to New York to face multiple charges. In related news, Bumble exploded.
Luigi Mangione has been placed in the same federal prison as Sean Combs. Said Combs, Christmas came early.
All righty, in a shocking new poll, none of this is worth laughing at, 41% of 18 to 29-year-olds find the killing of Thompson to be acceptable. You know, Molly, as we've been discussing, and I have a column at amac.us discussing this, the bizarre turn here with people supporting Luigi or loving him. It reminded me at first of the Boston bomber being on the cover of Rolling Stone. Yeah. What's your sense of when there might have been a turning point?
Yeah, and that perhaps was the turning point, was when Dzhokhar Tsarnaev was on the cover of Rolling Stone, which was only a few months after the Boston Marathon bombing, which had been in April, and the Rolling Stone cover was the very beginning of August. And I think the difference is there was a lot of outrage in Boston over this very glowy front page. It was pulled from stores. The mayor in Boston said that this reaffirms a terrible message that destruction gains fame for killers and their causes. So I don't feel like it had the same, I don't know if that's happening here in New York and with young people broadly across the country, because this feels like a very national story because of the big manhunt. And this Perp Walk didn't help it. It seemed like a movie glorification almost in a way.
Yeah, like everyone's kind of trapped in it. Jason, we have to ask, what has changed, if something has, with this kind of moral relativism, this death of right and wrong, or the glorification of violence and murder?
He's accused of first-degree murder. I mean, if true, I mean, we saw the video, and it's so dehumanizing to say, oh, this is acceptable in any way, shape, or form. This person was murdered. He had a wife. He had kids. He had a family. Nobody deserves to be shot and killed. Based on your looks, it's okay? I mean, it's absurd.
Yeah, they're trying to reduce it down to his looks. Like, oh, it's just his looks. It's just, that's what it is, you know? Oh, this guy had a family. Yeah, who doesn't have a family? You know what I mean? Brian Thompson had a family. How dare they do this? Is like not gonna get a lot of motion, I think. Don't you agree that the feds have an incentive to find a guy to pin the crime on, and given lots of evidence around Luigi doesn't make sense? He really is a patsy. This guy only cares about how Luigi Mangione is a patsy. No, man, I don't think it fucking smells that weird. Okay, I don't think it's a patsy situation. I don't know why people can't just like look at a fucking. I don't know why people can't just like look at a thing and be like, okay, maybe all the evidence that Maybe all the evidence that we've seen it fits. Okay, you don't have to always find some grand narrative. All right, my Zoomer coworkers all think he's a patsy because everyone's brain is broken. They can't just like look at a fucking. They can't look at a situation where like it makes sense. It's not enough. There's got to be like some other larger conspiracy at play. You know what I mean? Always.
It is scary to me that somehow the younger generation is not able to distinguish the difference between, say,
You're literally ignoring the evidence and imagining a grand narrative with Jeffrey Epstein, by the way. Oh my God, this is the one OG chatter I have who always fucking goes with Jeffrey Epstein actually did kill himself. Yeah, you're right, dude. Ignoring the evidence? The fuck do you mean? The mysterious ways in which the cameras shut off in the process where he fucking died? Yeah, dude. So much evidence. So much evidence to suggest that a guy who had an endless amount of blackmail material on some of the wealthiest. Oh my God. My dad is lighting a fire in the house right now. Ay, ay, ay. No, it's not Murat. It's my dad. He's cooking. No, I know his dad. I know. Okay, don't get her attention. I'm trying to get her to drink water, but she's not. We need to get a cone immediately, dude. Murat, can you grab a cone? One, he updated his will the day before. Two, who got into the prison to kill him? What do you mean? The fucking guards, most likely. What are you talking about? He had fake suicide previously to get a me like who gets into prison. What? Wait, no.
Video game and the reality in the real life of somebody being killed. Maybe they could go overseas and see somebody who really, in war get killed, and maybe they'd have a different attitude. But this is disgusting. And to make light of it, come on, Saturday Night Live, you're better than that.
And David, we've seen over at least 5 years, perhaps 10, but certainly targeting Trump, this dehumanizing of people with whom you disagree. That we've moved to such a point where if you have sole possession of the truth, as the left believes, then people who disagree with you must be evil, and murder becomes one of the tools in the box.
It becomes acceptable as they would like to promote it. One, I do disagree with the poll because look, if you go around this country, I don't think most young people are there. Sadly, it carries a bigger megaphone.
The dehumanization of CEOs must stop. Very, very scary. Yeah. The chatter, sorry, I was trying to talk to my brother. That's why it sounded like I had a fucking stroke in the middle of me responding to that chatter. That still believes that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. Yeah, the problem here. Hold on. The plastic collars suck. Hold on. She should be decently hydrated for a couple hours post-op. If she got IV fluids, looks like she did with a bandage on her leg. Yeah, I know, but her mouth might be dry. I suspect. I know the cones work well, chat. I know. I'm familiar. Please remove the bandage. It's only supposed to be on for 20 minutes. Okay, calm down. All right? Calm down. The issue is in hydration is nausea. No, she has anti-nausea medication as well. Dog sleep like 36 hours after spaying. No worries. Yeah, from the people that brought you, child murder is appropriate when it's Israel doing it to Gaza. Is also the cover, or from the people that brought you, you can murder as many people as you want as long as they're like homeless and black. From the people that brought you, once again, murder is perfectly fine and awesome if it's done against our enemies. And their enemies, by the way, is quite literally in this instance, the enemies of this guy were people that were staging a climate change protest on a road. Is now he took the life of a dad who did nothing and has zero remorse. This is your hero. 16,000 likes. No veins, no bulging, no red face, no yelling. This is not anger. This is fatigue. It's just like these guys do not have, make no mistake, they do not have issue with vigilante justice or murder, as a matter of fact. They just have issue with who the target was. And yes, every single quote unquote populist right winger at the end of the fucking day, every single quote unquote right winger is still always going to go back to the primary directive, which is protect the CEOs, protect corporations. And that's precisely what they're doing here at Fox News as well. They're trying to tug on the American sensibilities of crime and punishment Lolo has shares my same concern. Increasingly feeling that Mangione will get into custody or take his own life, in air quotes, because if there's even a 1% chance that he could get off, which there certainly is, cannot even describe how bad that would be for the ruling class. Yeah. If you make money, it makes sense on why they would defend a CEO. I mean, you have to remember, they make money defending CEOs. That's why I said it's their primary directive. They make money at the behest of getting your attention to shift away from those who actually cause harm in American society. Shift that attention away back to those who do not. Hold on. Their job is to keep you attentive on the appropriate vectors. Okay? Those who have been declared appropriate by the capital owners, people who are otherwise powerless. In a moment like this, when people do not when people forget about law and order, when they're making corridos about Luigi Mangione, when there's a lot of support for the action or for Luigi Mangione in general because of who the victim is, the job of right-wingers becomes glaringly obvious for those who even have a little bit of critical thinking skills. The right-wing media apparatus, all the way from the most, what is this? Holy shit, this is real? This is the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. Destiny appears in a parody rap battle video where he debates AI Hasan and still loses. Yeah, I have I've heard of this as well. I don't even know if I approach this or not. It's pretty fucking insane. It's the saddest thing I've seen online in quite a bit. Anyway, getting back to the actual issue here. Check the comments. Stop dividing us. It's both Dems and Republicans. Healthcare doesn't have political boundaries. I love how they're trying to make this a political belief thing when it's simply a class issue, not a political one. It's time for working class to come together. The news is against you. It's about class, not left and right. Don't watch. The guy said that he imagines you watching it all day. He's very weird. Wait, really? Okay. I have yet to watch it, but I did see someone talk about it before. It is incredibly lame. I mean, I don't know. For me, it feels like the greatest. Yes, he and D made it together and they both said that you probably watch it all day. They think, okay. All I'm going to say is this. I think this is yet another very clear-cut indication that you are so permanently echo chambered that you think making an AI rap battle video with an AI version of me versus like a real in the flesh human version of a 40-year-old man with a child duking it out epic rap battle style. If you think that that's like sick and not like insanely unwell, okay? Like insanely unwell. Like even if I did that against Ben Shapiro, it would be loser shit. Okay? Like if I did that against Ben Shapiro, if my community put something like that together against like Ben Shapiro, would be lame as fuck. It's so obsessive and so weird. It's pathetic. Oh man, you owned me in the marketplace of ID. You owned an AI version of me in the marketplace of rap battles. You think Destiny uses your AI to call him friend? Yeah. He probably got the AI to be like, hey, I love you actually secretly or some shit. It is very weird and very pathetic. All right, let's get back to this video, though.
To the point about the Tsarnaev brothers and what happened with that cover, when you look at this in the eyes of some of the NYPD folks that I know, a guy charged with murder, brought back from Pennsylvania, would have been thrown in the back of an SUV and driven to New York City. He got the rock star perp walk for whatever, and then you have Alvin Bragg, who, by the way,
God damn! Gotcha Puri bot. Thank you for the 50 gifted subs.
For charges, not a new thing for him. So now a lot of legal
Kappa Pride,
scholars and experts are saying what's going on.
Throwing bagels at a wall. Thank you for the 10 gifted.
on here. He's being given outsized appeal in that way, which fuels the fundraising and the look, it's perverted. It is perverted, Tammy, that people would look at murder this way. And to your point, if they've normalized this, we have a problem within a segment of the population. That's another thing that needs to die in our culture.
I do think it's the political rhetoric that has taken us to this point that was so extreme, and it can be turned around, I'm convinced. All right, thank you, everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor.
Brian, kill me. Perry's 115. Baja blast my brains out. Thank you for the 10. Zylax, thank you for the 100 bones. God damn.
That, of course, was murder suspect Luigi Mangione after a significant day in a New York City courtroom back in the city where he allegedly shot and killed the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, just 3 weeks ago.
Thank you for the 10 gifted.
Mangione
Emily
pleaded not
Giselle, thank you for the
guilty to the New York
5.
State charges, including terrorism, first-degree and second-degree murder. His attorney argued the state and federal prosecutors are playing political ping-pong with him, adding this.
I'm very concerned about my client's right to a fair trial. Like every other defendant, he is entitled to a presumption of innocence. But unfortunately, the way this has been handled so far, his rights are being violated.
Meanwhile, dozens protested outside, holding signs with phrases such as "people over profit" and "free Luigi." CNN's Shimon Prokopez brings us to New York, where prosecutors have mountains of evidence to sort through.
The crime of murder in the first degree and other related charges. Have you pleaded to this indictment, sir? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Accused killer Luigi Mangione back in court, this time for the charges he faces in New York State, wearing khakis and a maroon sweater, shackled at the wrists and ankles. The camera in court capturing the 26-year-old as he faces 11 state charges that include murder in the first degree and murder in the second degree as a crime of terrorism for the alleged killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
He's a young man, and he is being treated like a human ping pong ball.
His attorney slamming the way Mangione was paraded before cameras when being brought back to New York City from Pennsylvania.
Yep.
They're literally treating him like
It's fucked up. It's fucked up.
he is like some sort of political fodder, like some sort of spectacle.
During the arraignment, with rare camera access being allowed to record the proceedings, prosecutors disclosing just how much evidence they have.
I have never seen a case with such volume of evidence, aside from the issue of the quality of the evidence. This is not a usual case in terms of the thousands of hours of video tracking and the like.
Mangione seen smiling at times while talking with his legal team. Outside court, a small group of protesters gathered to voice their support for Mangione. The hearing ended with Mangione casually folding some papers before police escorted him away.
Luigi, do you have anything to say?
Mangione also faces federal charges that include murder through the use of a firearm. The state trial is expected to come first. Mangione faces a maximum sentence of life in prison for the state charges, and prosecutors could decide to seek a death penalty in the federal case. And Phil, he'll be back in court on February 21st on the state charges. As for the federal case, we believe there's a chance he could be back in court for that in January. We're waiting to see when he's indicted on the federal charges. Of course, his lawyer today signaling quite a fight as she says that her client is being treated unfairly and certainly unhappy with how law enforcement has behaved in this case.
Shimon Prokopez live for us in New York. Thanks so much.
The judge is married to a former healthcare CEO. It's just the pretrial judge.
Let's get right to our panel of experts. CNN Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst John Miller, Criminal Defense Trial Attorney Stacey Schneider, and former prosecutor in the Manhattan DA's office, Jeremy Salan. And Jeremy, I want to start with you because Shimon just mentioned this. We had it in the piece as well. Mangione's lawyer arguing that he might not get a fair trial and said the state and federal jurisdictions are treating him like a human ping pong ball. Is there merit to what she's laying out here?
You know, she has to make that argument, whether that's going to win the day and actually, from a legal standpoint, be the foundation for this to say this is not going to be fair. I don't think it reaches that point, but to her statement about being a ping pong ball and having this choreographed, absolutely unequivocally, this is a play, or we called it bigfooting by the federal government. This is a play for them to see something that really they shouldn't be in. It's a state case, but it's become something far, far more in terms of a spectacle to the public.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Stacey, you've made the point that the first-degree murder and terrorism charges, they could be overreach on some level. Do you think throwing the book at the suspect here may actually backfire on the district attorney, could actually amp up public support for Mangione that we've already seen on some level?
Yeah, we've seen unusual public support for someone who is charged with murder. But the thing is, the district attorney's office has to present a case, and they've done so in front of a grand jury based on the evidence they have. Why I think this is amped up and also, sort of political, as was just discussed, is because they went into a grand jury. They certainly have enough evidence from what they've signaled to the public about having matching DNA or forensic evidence on the water bottle allegedly found at the scene, on the Kind Bar wrapper found at the scene. Then law enforcement and the DA's office has signaled that they did a test firing of the 3D gun that was confiscated allegedly from Luigi Mangione, and the firing of those bullets matched the casings at the scene. This case is so unusual. The behavior of law enforcement is so unusual, and the district attorney's office and the mayor's office of the city of New York, that they are signaling this information about the strength of their case. It's not normal. It's not the way things are done. And to go into the grand jury and charge this as an act of terrorism, where the only way that we know that the insurance industry was allegedly targeted, or that the victim, Brian Thompson, was allegedly targeted because of his role at an insurance company, is because law enforcement told us that through the media. Luigi Mangione allegedly did not publish his alleged manifesto. That's what the law enforcement's calling.
Dude, this guy keeps going. Why would a guy who did a hit and escaped the most surveilled city in America undetected then go to a McDonald's with a backpack containing the murder weapon? He was in a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. The fact that he kept the murder weapon is also, yes, unique, but it doesn't seem like he is a criminal mastermind, okay? That's what it is. He just looks more professional and cool and calm and collected in the moment of the hit in the video that we all saw a million times over. Having said that, however, it's not like it doesn't seem as though he is a professional hitman. Okay, I don't know. I just don't understand why you have to believe that there is like some grand narrative here at play. I genuinely don't get it. Aside from the fact that things can't be exactly the way you see it. You know, he's never said at any point he did it out loud. Dude, what are you talking about? Why the fuck would he say it? Okay, even the most like inexperienced fucking guy who's potentially executed a hit like this is probably still going to have some level of self-preservation and most likely not going to say he did the crime while he's directly on trial. That part makes total fucking sense. What are you talking about? I don't know if you guys saw it, but he also pled not guilty. I can't tell if you guys are joking or if you're being for real right now. The feds have no idea who did the hit and they're pinning it on a random loner. Yeah, I don't know why you think that that is the case, aside from regular mania. But I'm sure that the outfit that you saw he wore to the court today is going to cause even other people is going to cause those people who believe this guy's a patsy to lose their minds even further. Like, I don't even think there was a parallel construction. A lot of people believe that there was there is like a narrative that was built around the surveillance apparatus that was actually secretly used to find find Luigi Mangione. I don't even believe that either. I just think that I do, I guess, low key, but kind of high key, believe the overall ways in which he was apprehended and that he was the guy who allegedly did it. Like, I don't think everything has to be this like grand conspiracy. Yeah. This is going to make 1,000 over 1,000 people schizophrenic. You keep saying it's just a pretrial judge, but pretty sure that in most cases, like unless there's a specific circumstance, the pretrial judge is the actual trial judge too. Oh, okay. Well, we'll see. What does a patsy mean in this case? It means that they got the wrong guy, that he didn't actually do it. Someone else did it. But because they had no idea, because this was a criminal mastermind, a brilliant criminal mastermind, get away with the hit, they just blamed it on a random loner. Wrote a wrote a fucking fake manifesto and placed the backpack, or like put all of the additional shit onto the backpack, including the gun, because everyone was like, why would this guy literally run around with the gun? I don't know, man. He's not a fucking, I don't think he's a criminal mastermind.
Calling it. So far, we don't know that there's some kind of hit list here where he was going to allegedly take out more people. This might have been a single act by someone who is mentally unstable, allegedly. Again, he's charged and innocent until a jury proves it. But they didn't need to go into the grand jury and charge this as a terroristic act. They could have charged this as a straight murder too, without a terrorist component.
You know, John, to that point, the information that we have from law enforcement, obviously, the kind of public optics of the perp walk, the photo we had from last week, the new video of Mangione being slowly walked into and out of court today, flanked by several officers. What's the strategy? What's your sense of the strategy behind these very public displays and efforts?
Well, first, Phil, this is a case of extraordinarily high public interest. We can't kind of avoid that. That is the elephant in the room, which is the press has been looking for these pictures. They want these pictures. They staked out the Pennsylvania locations. They staked out.
Bro, we can't have a fucking unifying moment, dude. There's still got to be some fucking schizos in the chat. Like, look at this. The NYPD is so incompetent, they couldn't find the guy, and then they picked this dude, and there's some panopticon type tech they used to catch him. Again, the dude doesn't have to be a prolific assassin for this narrative, but that law enforcement is built to smell fishy. Okay, so the NYPD is so fucking incompetent that they can't catch this guy who shot a CEO in broad daylight, but they're so good at finding someone who literally, like they're so good at finding a random person that can fit that profile. Like they literally scoured the interwebs to find a guy who was, incognito for the past 6 months after a fucking back surgery, who has the Reddit profile of a person who was scorned by the healthcare industry across the board. Like, what are we doing, man? You honestly don't think that's a long list? Dude, it's a long, yes, there are a shit ton of people who have been fucked over by the healthcare industry. But the idea that you're going to find a person with a public profile to this degree that literally fucking fell off the map 6 months ago is insane. Like, that is a massive, that's not that big of a leap. Yes, it is. It is. You're fucking crazy. Like, they found a guy whose face kind of matches it too. To be honest, I think he did it and turned himself in. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he turned himself in, but I think he did it and thought that he might get caught at a certain point and wrote a shit-ass manifesto. Like, why the fuck would they choose a guy with a wealthy family too? Like, that makes it so much worse. It literally doesn't matter if he's a patsy or not. I know, but chatters want to fucking find some grand conspiracy.
Out the airport where the plane landed. They staked out the heliport.
Brian was literally due to testify, and you don't see the killer's face in the video? What? Due to testify for... What are you talking about? That's like stock manipulation. Do you know how many fucking CEOs engage in that sort of thing and get prosecuted by one of the regulatory agencies for that sort of thing? Like, insider trading and stock manipulation is an infinitely common... It's an incredibly common thing, okay? The idea that they're gonna fucking pop a CEO because he's gonna really bust open this fucking case is like the number one, the primary suspect is fucking nuts. We need universal health care because we need these guys to get immediate therapy and medication. It's like at the end of Casino, Why Take a Chance? Brother, you're bringing up too many fucking movie references for me to take you seriously. We are in the midst of a truly devastating mental health epidemic.
Where the helicopter landed, the policy of the police department is that they neither encourage nor discourage the photographing of defendants in public areas. So some of that is the natural course of this. And I mean, let's not pretend. We remember the perp walk of the son of Sam, of Frank James, the guy who shot the 10 people on the subway a couple of years ago, of the Zazi case and the terrorism thing. We've seen these big perp walks before. What we generally don't see is the mayor being present. And I think that was a signal from a politician who is fighting every day to remind people that New York is the safest big city in the country against the backdrop of the regular crime New York experiences and something like this, a high-profile assassination in its street.
Been here for 5 years, and that's the take I get called out on. Whack. Maybe eat a dick. Don't have to call people mentally unwell because you take issue with the conspiracy in particular. You believe in some silly shit too, bitch. Go ahead, explain to me what silly shit I believe. What is the silly thing that I believe that you take issue with? It's not woke of the day. It's just hypersensitive chatters because they're fucking mad. Vibe out a bear? Yeah, that's a fucking joke, dude. Calm down. Jesus Christ. Like, holy fuck. Are we going to be serious right now? Yeah, I don't also think Native Americans are Turkish. Like, this chatter is being sensitive that you can befriend a bear. Come on, chatter. You don't get to go back to jokes after fucking saying how upset you are as a 30-month subscriber. 30-month subscriber that, like, you know, you're genuinely upset because I'm calling out people who have hallucinated a different fucking reality.
So his presence there was basically the symbol of saying, if you do a major crime here, you're going to get caught. And that was purposeful.
Jeremy, if you're a prosecutor on this case, take yourself back to your former life. Does that create problems for you? Are you okay with that?
Well, I think it's really rich. And what John is not saying, but also I'm sure recognizing, is that you also have a mayor who's there who's trying to distract from the fact that he's been indicted by the...
But calling people schizophrenic, finding another insult is annoying as a sufferer. Okay, well, they're hallucinating. What do you want me to say?
Southern District, which now has Mangione's case. All of this is a distraction. Joel Seidman, I've known him, I served with him for 7 years in his bureau. He's an incredibly bright, he's a prosecutor's prosecutor. He knows that evidence inside and out. And he pointed out something, as we were listening to before, about the quantity of evidence. This is not a quantity of evidence issue, and frankly, it's not a quality of evidence issue. It's whether, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And what I mean by that is you can go into a grand jury and charge anything you want within reason, and a grand jury will likely indict within reason. But this is not the appropriate case, meaning this first-degree felony, this first-degree murder, just as it's not appropriate for the federal government to be involved. Whether that means there was pressure by the insurance agency, whether they're sending a message. All this may be true, but that does not change the elements of the crime. And I will say the good thing about Joel, and which will be difficult to overcome, is he's not going to pay any attention to what's happening outside the courtroom. From inside baseball perspective, he's going to do his homework and make sure it's presented properly. Karen has a big uphill battle, not for all of the charges, because I really believe ultimately, DNA aside, video aside, he may have committed the acts, but did he commit the crime? Is there an insanity defense? Is that going to be something successful? And I would say one other thing here. You know,
so you don't think this is suspicious at all? Brother, it is the it is the biggest own goal of all time. If the patsy they found is a telegenic, charismatic look who's hot with a six-pack and a story that everyone can understand coming from a fucking wealthy background. If they wanted to find a fall guy, why didn't they just like say it was a, I don't know, like a trans black homeless person? You think there aren't enough people like that have been fucked over by healthcare that they could find? They literally went and found what? The most telegenic guy? What are you saying? They should have gotten a fucking David DePipe style person then. Someone that looks like a fucking cave dwelling troll. Like, dude looks, yeah, Disney level protagonist. Like, dude looks good. Also, securing a patsy in a situation like this is so unimaginably difficult, especially because he was a social person for a very long time. Not only is it a grand conspiracy that's like impossible to put together. Okay, the mass photos didn't look like a transgender African American person. Okay, there are other minorities that are white passing enough that you could just fucking play off. If you're so predisposed with the idea that this person isn't the fucking, they wouldn't have released the photos originally. They wouldn't have released the original photos either. They could have just simply, they could have never released the Starbucks photos. They could have never released the other photos at all. And they could have simply just said, like, oh, we found the guy. They could have found an Arabic dude. You know what I mean? Tied it back to Hamas too, somehow. Like, the opportunities are endless. Also, creating a fucking patsy and finding a fall guy, creating a fucking patsy is like also in and of itself a difficult endeavor. Uh-oh, someone's getting up. Like, there are so many moving parts. Why didn't he turn himself in? Why isn't he pleading guilty? Why does note say, I love the feds, I did it alone? Why did Luigi say stuff was planted? Wait, So on the one hand, you're talking about Luigi saying that money might have been planted in his backpack or something. Okay, which is true. He did say that in Pennsylvania. But on the other hand, you're like, why didn't he turn himself in, and why isn't he pleading guilty? Why the fuck would anybody plead guilty, you fucking idiot? The whole point of it is to not plead guilty so you can try and get off. Like, what are you talking about? All of this is also a major distraction. I feel like it's a fucking leftist psyop. The feds have activated, and I apologize to my chatters experiencing mental health complications. The feds have activated the schizos to come in and be like, no, don't focus on anything. Don't focus on why people consider Luigi Mangione to be not that bad of a guy. Focus on alternative realities. I think chatter meant those things as reasons on why he isn't a patsy. No, that chatter thinks he's a fucking patsy.
The federal government, the Southern District, is claiming or potentially pursuing this felony complaint to an indictment, to a possible trial. Will they seek the death penalty? Well, their current president, who runs the show here now, at least through the rest of the year, just granted clemency to, I believe, 37 or 40 people on death row. What's going on here? This is really a power grab on the outside for a case that deserves attention, but no more than a domestic violence homicide and murder either. So let's be clear what we're looking at.